There's a quiet kind of strength that Sigma Empaths carry, one the world rarely sees but always feels. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it doesn't beg to be noticed. It's the kind of strength that hides behind calm eyes and controlled silence, the kind that doesn't fight for attention but commands it effortlessly. When they stop explaining, it's not because they've given up, it's because they've finally realized that peace speaks louder than chaos. Their silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the moment they stop absorbing pain that isn't theirs and start choosing themselves instead. Because for a Sigma Empath, silence isn't escape, it's evolution. It's how they reclaim power without confrontation, rebuild identity without validation, and turn emotional chaos into grounded clarity. If you've ever walked away quietly, not to win, but to heal, this video is for you. Subscribe to Brainy Empath for more deep insights on emotional strength, spiritual detachment, and inner healing. And tell me in the comments, has your silence ever taught someone a lesson your words never could? They sense energy first, then speak. Sigma Empaths don't enter conversations blindly. They read them before they even begin. When they walk into a room, they don't just hear words or notice gestures. They feel undercurrents, the hidden tension, the quiet sadness, the unspoken motives. Before a single word leaves their lips, they've already scanned the emotional landscape like a radar. It's not psychic ability, it's hyper-awareness built from years of being misunderstood, from learning the difference between what people say and what they mean. They've experienced enough manipulation to know that energy never lies. A smile can be fake, kindness can be performative, but energy always reveals truth. That's why Sigma Empaths are slow to speak and quick to observe. They take their time, sensing whether a person is genuine or draining, whether their presence feels grounding or chaotic. While others rush to fill silence, the Sigma Empath studies it, because silence is where the truth hides. Their restraint often confuses people. To those who thrive on noise, their quiet feels intimidating. But the Sigma Empath's silence isn't shyness, it's strategy. They're not avoiding conversation, they're decoding it. Every tone, every hesitation, every shift in energy becomes a clue about who they're really dealing with. And when they finally do speak, their words carry precision. They say just enough to reveal understanding, never enough to expose vulnerability. That's their power, speaking only after they've read the room, not reacting to it. Their energy doesn't adapt to others, others adapt to theirs. Because while most people communicate to be heard, Sigma Empaths communicate to see. They sense, they study, they choose their moment, and that's why when they finally open their mouth, everyone listens. They turn listening into a tactical advantage. For most people, listening is passive, a polite pause between what they want to say next. But for a Sigma Empath, listening is strategy. It's how they gather data, map emotions, and predict behavior without ever revealing their own hand. They listen not just to the words, but to what slips between them. Every hesitation, every sigh, every shift in tone becomes a small piece of the truth others try to hide. When someone speaks to a Sigma Empath, they often walk away feeling understood, but rarely realize they've been studied. The Sigma Empath listens like an investigator disguised as a friend. They don't interrupt, they don't correct, they don't compete for airtime. They create space, and in that space, people expose themselves. Ego-driven minds rush to fill silence, to prove, to impress, to dominate. But the Sigma Empath uses silence as a mirror, letting others reveal their insecurities, their motives, their weaknesses. It's not manipulation, it's protection. Sigma Empaths learned early that words can be weapons. They've been talked over, lied to, and gaslighted enough to realize that real power lies not in speaking, but in understanding. So they stopped trying to win conversations. Instead, they started learning from them. When chaos unfolds, they're the calmest person in the room. Not because they don't feel, but because they've already predicted every reaction. They've observed how people argue, deflect, or pretend. They've studied tone patterns so deeply that they can sense deceit before evidence ever appears. While others talk themselves into mistakes, the Sigma Empath quietly builds clarity. And when they finally decide to speak, their words hit differently. Sharp, grounded, surgical. They don't argue, they end arguments. They don't explain, they clarify. Every sentence they release feels intentional because it is. This is why Sigma empaths are underestimated at first, until they open their mouth. Their quiet listening has already mapped the entire psychological terrain of the person in front of them. What looks like detachment is actually preparation. What feels like silence is power being loaded, waiting for precision timing. Because in a world obsessed with talking, the one who listens, truly listens, holds the ultimate advantage. They convert emotional pain into quiet strategy. For most people, pain is something to escape, but for a Sigma empath, it's something to study. They don't rush to numb it, drown it, or disguise it. They sit with it. They let the ache speak, analyze its language, and extract lessons no therapist could teach. Every heartbreak, betrayal, and disappointment becomes a classroom. Every wound becomes data. They've been hurt more times than they'll ever admit, not because they were weak, but because they believed in potential too deeply. They gave love to people who mistook it for supply, empathy to those who only knew how to take. And after every collapse, they didn't become colder, they became sharper. They started seeing patterns, the same manipulation in different words, the same betrayal dressed in new charm. Pain turned into pattern recognition, and pattern recognition became strategy. So now, when someone enters their life, the Sigma empath doesn't fall for intensity. They read the emotional blueprint. They notice the small inconsistencies, the forced charm, the lack of self-awareness. Their intuition sharpens with every scar. Pain trained them to sense what others can't see. This transformation isn't loud. It happens in silence, in the nights they spent replaying conversations, connecting dots, and realizing where they gave too much. Their healing didn't come from revenge or closure. It came from understanding. They learned that not everyone who hurts you deserves a reaction. Sometimes the greatest revenge is rebuilding so quietly that your absence becomes their consequence. Now, their empathy has edges. It's still deep, still kind, but it's guarded by wisdom. They no longer give their energy to prove their worth, they give it to build their peace. When chaos returns, they don't fight it, they study it. They don't break down, they restructure. The world sees a calm face, unaware that beneath that serenity lies a strategist forged in pain. Every scar is a blueprint, every lesson is armor. They've mastered the art of turning heartbreak into discipline and discipline into foresight. Because Sigma empaths don't stay broken, they rebuild smarter, and once they do, no one ever gets to play the same game with them twice. They use silence as a boundary. Silence for most people feels uncomfortable, even threatening, but for a Sigma empath, silence is home. It's their shield, their filter, and their boundary all in one. They don't use it to punish, they use it to protect. After years of being drained by emotional chaos, misunderstood intentions, and endless explanations, they've learned that silence communicates what words never could. My peace is not up for negotiation. There was a time when they would explain everything, why they cared, why they pulled away, why they were hurt. But every explanation was twisted, every truth minimized, every feeling dismissed. So they stopped defending themselves. They stopped handing out access through conversation. Instead, they started letting silence speak for them. When a Sigma empath goes quiet, it's not indifference, it's emotional intelligence in action. It's their way of saying, I see the pattern, I understand the manipulation, and I refuse to participate. That quiet isn't weakness, it's strategy. Because while others are shouting, the Sigma empath is observing. While others are reacting, they are regaining power. Their silence unsettles people who thrive on control. Manipulators can't stand it because it removes their favorite weapon, reaction. They'll provoke, guilt trip, or demand answers, but the Sigma empath stays composed, knowing that chaos dies without attention. Silence becomes their line in the sand, firm, invisible, and unshakable. In that quiet space, they recalibrate. They process what happened, not from emotion, but from awareness. They decide what deserves a response and what deserves to dissolve. They learn that silence doesn't mean surrender. It means selection. Not every battle deserves their energy, and not every person deserves their explanation. So when they go quiet, it's not the end of communication. It's the beginning of clarity. They're teaching the world how to treat them without uttering a single word. They're reclaiming authority over their energy and peace. And the irony? The very people who once called them too emotional now find their silence unbearable. Because when a Sigma empath chooses quiet, it's not absence, it's power. It's the loudest statement they'll ever make. You no longer have access to the parts of me you couldn't respect. Is it really that women are calm to expose hidden motives? A Sigma empath doesn't confront chaos with chaos, they neutralize it. When tension rises, they don't shout, they don't defend, and they don't chase clarity from people who twist the truth. Instead, they mirror calm. Their composure becomes a psychological mirror, one that quietly reflects every hidden motive, insecurity, and manipulation in front of them. They've learnt that when you match someone's energy, you become part of their game. But when you remain still, they reveal everything. So while others might take the bait, arguing, proving, reacting, the Sigma empath simply observes. They listen, they nod, they let silence expand between sentences until the other person begins to unravel. Because when the calm person doesn't bend, the manipulator loses control. It's a skill born from survival. Sigma empaths didn't learn calmness in peace, they learned it in chaos. They've dealt with narcissists who thrived on reactions, people who masked cruelty as concern, and friends who weaponized guilt. Every encounter taught them that emotion gives control away, but stillness takes it back. So now, when someone tries to provoke them, they become almost unreadable. Their eyes soften, their tone lowers, their words slow down. And yet, behind that composure, their mind is running at lightning speed, analyzing tone shifts, body language, inconsistencies. They don't need confessions, they watch behavior. Their calm disarms manipulation like nothing else. People who rely on drama find themselves off balance. Their scripts fail, their control slips, they start revealing themselves. Because people always do when their energy isn't matched. And in that exposure, the Sigma empath sees everything they need to know. But this calm isn't coldness, it's protection. It's how they keep their energy pure in a world full of projection. They don't absorb people's chaos anymore, they reflect it back. They've learned that peace isn't just silence, it's strategy. When the Sigma empath stays calm, it's not submission, it's awareness. Their stillness becomes the storm. Because nothing terrifies the manipulator more than a person who can see right through them, without raising their voice, without losing their balance, and without saying a single unnecessary word. They withdraw access, not affection. When a Sigma empath pulls away, most people misinterpret it. They think the empath stopped caring, but that's never the truth. What they've really done is withdraw access, not affection. The love is still there, quiet and sincere, but it's no longer available for those who abused it. Their distance isn't emotional death, it's emotional preservation. Sigma empaths love deeply, but they've learned that not everyone deserves that depth. For years, they gave endless chances, patient explanations, and unconditional empathy to people who only gave confusion in return. They believed love could heal, that understanding could change someone, until they realize some people don't want healing, they want control. That's when the shift happens. The withdrawal is never dramatic. There's no loud goodbye or confrontation, just a gradual stillness. Fewer replies, less access, quieter presence. One day you're inside their world, the next, you're staring at closed doors you didn't even notice were closing. That's the Sigma empath's way, subtle but final. They don't seek revenge or closure, they seek restoration. Their silence becomes sacred ground, a space to rebuild what others drained. They stop pouring into relationships that leak, stop explaining themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them, and stop confusing attachment with loyalty. They start giving that same care, that same devotion to themselves. People who took them for granted often mistake their stillness for weakness. They think they can return whenever they please, but when a Sigma empath withdraws access, the bridge is burned quietly. They don't hate you, they simply outgrew the version of themselves that tolerated what you gave. Their love remains, but it's moved to safer hands. And here's the paradox. Their absence is louder than their presence ever was. Because what people miss isn't just the empath, it's the energy they brought. The calm after your chaos, the safety after your storm, the peace you couldn't create for yourself. So no, they didn't stop loving, they stopped bleeding. They stopped handing out parts of their soul to people who mistook it for an open bar. Their love is still there, just no longer accessible to those who didn't earn it. And that, for a Sigma empath, is the purest form of self-respect. They rebuild internally while the world assumes they're broken. When a Sigma empath disappears, the world often writes its own story. They must be hurt, they've lost themselves, they're falling apart. But that couldn't be further from the truth. What looks like collapse from the outside is actually construction from within. The Sigma empath doesn't announce their healing, they live it, brick by quiet brick. They don't chase validation or sympathy. They vanish into solitude because it's the only place they can rebuild without noise. Their silence isn't weakness, it's sacred. It's the sound of wounds closing and clarity forming. While everyone else is busy talking, defending, or seeking attention, the Sigma empath is inside their own soul, rearranging everything that was broken into something sharper, wiser, and untouchable. It's not the first time they've rebuilt from ruins. Pain has been their teacher, betrayal their blueprint, and solitude their sanctuary. Every heartbreak, every manipulation, every loss, all of it becomes raw material. They don't throw away the pieces, they study them. They ask, what did this teach me? What truth was hiding behind the pain? And with every lesson, they refine themselves into someone stronger, not colder, but clearer. From the outside, people assume they're fragile because they're quiet. But quiet doesn't mean shattered, it means focused. It's the calm before rebirth. They're learning how to protect their peace without guilt, how to trust their intuition without doubt, and how to walk away without explaining. The same empathy that once made them vulnerable now becomes their navigation system, guiding them through reconstruction with precision. And when they finally return, when they re-emerge from the silence, they don't come back seeking revenge or validation. They come back with boundaries that feel like walls, and energy that feels like peace. The world won't recognize them because they no longer vibrate on the same frequency as before. People who once thought they broke the Sigma empath will realize too late they didn't destroy them, they refined them. Because every ending the empath faced became the foundation for a stronger beginning. So, while the world whispers about their disappearance, the Sigma empath is busy building something unshakable. A version of themselves that no longer needs to be understood to feel whole. They let presence, not explanation, do the work. A Sigma empath eventually learns that silence speaks louder than defense, that presence, calm and steady, carries more truth than any justification ever could. They stop explaining their worth, stop defending their intentions, and stop trying to convince others of their value. Instead, they embody it. Their energy becomes the message, their peace becomes the proof. For most of their life, Sigma empaths were over-explainers, people who thought understanding would earn them safety. When someone misunderstood them, they'd rush to clarify. When someone questioned their loyalty, they'd overgive to prove it. But experience taught them something crucial. The people who truly see you don't need convincing, and the ones who demand explanations aren't listening, they're testing control. So they stop feeding that cycle. When others misread their silence, they let them. When gossip tries to define them, they let it echo unanswered. Because the Sigma empath knows that truth has endurance. It doesn't need defense, it reveals itself over time. Their calm consistency, their emotional depth, their unwavering boundaries. That's the real statement. And that presence, that quiet strength, begins to unsettle those who once thrived on their reactions. Manipulators lose their grip because there's nothing to argue with. Narcissists lose interest because there's no chaos to feed from. And ordinary people, the ones who value honesty and peace, start to feel drawn to that energy. The Sigma Empath doesn't move through life to be understood anymore, they move to be aligned. Their presence is grounded, clear, and self-contained. It doesn't beg to be noticed, but it always is. People sense it without words, the quiet confidence of someone who no longer seeks validation because they've already validated themselves. So they let their life, not their arguments, do the talking. They let growth speak. They let peace speak. They let transformation speak. Because at their core, Sigma Empaths understand something rare. Words may convince, but energy proves. And theirs, refined through silence and strength, says everything that needs to be said. In the end, the Sigma Empaths' silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's how they protect what's sacred, their energy, their peace, and their truth. They've learned that not every battle deserves their presence, and not every connection deserves their depth. Their calm doesn't mean they don't care. It means they've outgrown the need to prove that they do. Because when a Sigma Empath masters silence, they stop chasing understanding and start embodying peace. They become untouchable, not because they built walls, but because they built awareness. Their silence becomes their message, and their energy becomes their boundary. If you've ever reached that stage, where silence spoke louder than words, and peace felt more powerful than revenge, this message was meant for you. Type peace over chaos in the comments if you've learned to protect your energy by walking away quietly. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep insights into emotional mastery, inner strength, and the psychology of transformation.